Episode 1: The Motel on Route 9. They say every road in America has one place you're not supposed to stop. For truckers, that place was the Desert View Motel out on Route 9, a stretch of forgotten asphalt that cuts through the New Mexico Badlands like an old scar. No one could remember when it was built, but everyone remembered when it should have been gone. His name was Daniel Mercer, 42 years old, a long-haul driver hauling industrial supplies to Albuquerque. He'd been driving since dawn. The desert was endless, nothing but red rock and sagebrush, flat land and heat shimmer, the kind of place that swallows your sense of time. At 10:47 p.m., he saw the sign, a single flickering neon arrow, Desert View Motel, vacancy. He hadn't seen another car for 2 hours. His eyelids felt like sandpaper. The thought of a bed, any bed, was enough to make him take the turnoff. The motel sat in the middle of nowhere. 7 rooms lined in a crooked row, an empty swimming pool out front like a crater. The office light was on, buzzing weakly. Inside, a bell sat on the counter. Daniel rang it. Once, twice, no one came. There was a faint smell, dust and old bleach. The walls were covered in faded wallpaper, yellowing under the hum of fluorescent light. He was about to leave when he noticed a small metal box beside the bell. On it, a handwritten note. Pick any room. Leave $40 in the slot. Key is in the door. Daniel hesitated, then shrugged. He'd slept in worse places. He dropped 2 20s into the box and grabbed the key to room 5. Room 5 smelled faintly of cigarettes and something else, like metal. The air conditioner rattled in the corner, but blew nothing but warm air. The bedspread was a dull orange, patterned with sun-bleached flowers. He threw his duffel on the chair and went to wash up. That's when he saw the mirror, a long rectangular piece of glass above the sink, edges spotted with corrosion. It caught his reflection just fine, though the lighting made his face look hollow, his eyes darker than usual. He stared at himself for a moment. He could have sworn his reflection blinked half a second too late. He laughed it off. Road fatigue, hallucinations. He brushed his teeth, splashed water on his face, and turned toward the bed. That's when he noticed the light. Through the thin curtains, he could see the other rooms, all 6 of them, and every single one had its light on. No cars, no movement. Just 7 empty rooms glowing in the desert night. He thought about leaving then, but it was late, and the nearest town was 50 miles away. He told himself maybe the owner left the lights on for travelers, maybe others checked in before him. He turned off his lamp and lay down. Sleep came quick. At 2:13 a.m., a noise woke him, a faint click, like a door latch. He sat up. The room was dark except for the strip of moonlight slipping through the curtains. He listened. Click, click. The sound came from the next room over, room 6. Then slowly from the other side, room 4. Like doors opening one after another, moving toward him. He grabbed his flashlight and got out of bed. The hallway outside was silent, still. The doors to the other rooms were closed, but light leaked from beneath them. He called out, "Hello? Anyone there?" No answer. When he turned back to his room, the door was wide open. Inside, the light was on, though he was sure he'd turned it off. And on the bed was a man, or rather, something shaped like a man. He was lying perfectly still, facing the ceiling, wearing the same clothes Daniel was wearing. His boots, his jacket, even the small tear in the cuff of his sleeve. Daniel froze. His breath caught. The man's eyes opened. They were his eyes. The figure sat up, mirroring him exactly. Then it smiled. A small, slow curl of the lips that didn't reach the eyes. Daniel stumbled back, dropped his flashlight. The beam rolled across the floor. When it stopped, the bed was empty. He ran to his truck, heart pounding, engine screaming to life as he tore back toward Route 9. The desert swallowed the motel behind him. The radio crackled. For a moment he thought he'd tuned into static, until he heard a voice. His own voice. "You shouldn't have left." He hit the power, but the voice stayed. "You forgot to check out, Daniel." His headlights flickered. The desert ahead stretched on forever. But after 10 minutes of driving, the neon arrow appeared again in the distance. Desert View Motel. Vacancy. He slammed the brakes, heart in his throat. He'd been driving straight. He hadn't turned around. He looked in the rearview mirror. The motel was still behind him. And also, somehow, in front of him. Panic turned into a kind of numb disbelief. He drove forward anyway. The closer he got, the brighter the lights became, until they filled the windshield, blinding. Then, silence. The next morning, a state trooper pulled over by the side of Route 9. A semi-truck sat idling, engine dead, door open. No one inside. Inside the cab was a logbook. Last entry, written in pencil. Route 9, Desert View Motel. Room 5, finally resting. They towed the truck away that afternoon. The motel wasn't there. Wasn't anywhere on the map. But at night, some drivers still see a row of glowing windows in the distance. And if you ever stop to look closer, they say you might catch your reflection in the glass, smiling back a moment too late. Episode 2, The Lake That Hums. They say some lakes don't reflect the sky. They reflect what people have buried underneath. Lake Dunwell, northern Minnesota. Deep pine woods. Endless fog curling over still water, as if the lake itself were breathing. From a distance, it wasn't large, just a patch of dull silver among trees. But if you stood quietly at night, you could hear it hum. Not the wind, not the current, but a low, human vibration, like 100 voices murmuring the same note from somewhere deep below. That August, 4 college students drove out there for a weekend camping trip. Mara, a psychology major obsessed with the paranormal. Eli, her skeptical boyfriend. Sophie, the anxious friend who laughed too easily. And Tom, quiet, broad-shouldered, who'd grown up not far from here. They drove 6 hours through pine forests until they reached the lake at sunset. The water shimmered like cracked glass. Eli grinned. "So this is the haunted lake? Let's record it. Maybe we'll catch a ghost chorus." They pitched tents, opened beers, laughed under the orange sky. When Mara started recording on her phone, at first there was nothing. Then faintly a low tone, steady and hollow, like a voice caught between worlds. Tom frowned. "That's not wind," he said quietly. "It sounds like pipes." That night, fog rolled in thick. They sat around the fire, faces glowing red, telling ghost stories. Mara replayed her recording. The hum was louder now, richer, layered, almost melodic. "You hear that?" Sophie whispered. "Yeah," Eli said. "Creepy as hell, but fun." He looked at Mara, smirking. "Want to test it? See if it reacts when someone lies?" She laughed. "Fine. Say something. I'll judge." Eli leaned forward. "I love you." They chuckled until they heard the hum shift. The pitch dropped, dark and metallic, vibrating through the ground beneath them. Sophie gasped. "Eli, stop!" "I was kidding." But Tom's eyes stayed fixed on the lake. "No," he said slowly. You weren't. Around midnight, Mara woke to a faint singing outside the tent. Low, slow, calling her name. Mara. She froze. Eli? No answer. Only the water trembling softly like a giant heartbeat. She stepped out. The fog was so thick her flashlight cut only a few feet ahead. The singing grew clearer. It wasn't from above. It was coming from under the lake. At the water's edge, she saw a figure standing waist-deep, back turned. A man in a dark shirt. Still. Perfectly still. She called out. He didn't move. And then he was gone. No splash, no ripple. Just the smooth reflection of her own face on the water, smiling back at her. By morning, Eli was gone. His tent open, his boots still inside. Footprints led down to the lake and stopped. Tom said nothing. Sophie shook. Mara sobbed, demanding to call the police. No signal, Tom said. We'll have to drive to the village. I know the way. As they left, Mara looked back. The lake gleamed like steel. Something dark drifted just beneath the surface. Long, human-shaped. 3 hours later, they reached a gas station in a tiny valley town. The old man behind the counter looked up. Dunwell Lake, he repeated, frowning. You kids went there? He leaned closer, voice low. That ain't a lake. It's a mine, collapsed in '58. 37 men buried alive down there. Government flooded the pit, called it a lake. He lit a cigarette, eyes distant. Every year someone hears the hum. They say it starts when somebody up there tells a lie. When they came back that evening, the fog had vanished. The camp was empty. The lake, black as tar. Tom crouched by the shore, staring into the still water. Eli, Mara shouted. Only her echo replied. Sophie backed away. We shouldn't be here. It doesn't want. The hum surged, deep, deafening, shaking the trees. Bubbles broke the surface, water churning like it was boiling. Then came a voice, distorted, heavy with water. I didn't lie, Mara. I just didn't know who I was talking to. A pale hand burst from the lake, reaching, trembling, then vanished beneath the waves. They ran. The car tore through the woods. But after a few miles, Tom slowed, then stopped. Mara screamed at him. Why are you stopping? He sat still for a long moment. They know, he said quietly. What? He turned. His eyes were black in the dim light. We shouldn't lie anymore. He stepped out, walked calmly back into the fog, and disappeared. 3 days later, park rangers found the car abandoned by the forest road. Doors open. Inside, everything soaked. On the front seat, Mara's phone, still recording. The file name, lake_truth.wav. When they played it, only the sound of water filled the speakers. Then, faintly, 100 voices humming the same note. If you listen carefully, you can make out a whisper between the tones. We didn't drown. We were buried. Mara says, they say that on windless nights, if you walk near Lake Dunwell, you can hear that humming under your feet. And if you lie while standing by the shore, the hum will change pitch, as if something below has just opened its eyes. Episode 3, Room 313. Hospitals are supposed to make you feel safe. They save lives, heal wounds, promise light at the end of the hallway. But every hospital has one room where no one should recover. For St. Agnes Medical Center in Detroit, that room was 313. The room had been sealed for over 20 years. The staff said it was being renovated, but everyone knew that was a lie. Nurses refused to pass it on the night shift. Security cameras facing that wing were permanently shut off. And yet, every few months, someone claimed to hear a phone ringing from behind the locked door. Not an alarm, not a pager, a landline phone, old-fashioned with a rotary dial, ringing endlessly, echoing through the vents. In 1999, a nurse named Clara Benson vanished during a double shift. The last place she was seen on camera was near the north hallway, right outside room 313. Her badge was found on the floor, a few feet from the door, and her voice, they said, could still be heard sometimes, answering a call that never ended. Fast forward to 2022. The hospital was closing down, finally scheduled for demolition. A freelance documentarian named Evan Reed got permission to film inside before it was torn down. He specialized in haunted architecture, abandoned prisons, collapsed theaters, places that still breathed when no one was supposed to. His goal? Record a short film called The Final Patient. He arrived just before sunset, his camera flickering under the last gold light. The building loomed like a skeleton made of concrete and memory. Inside, his boots echoed through corridors lined with peeling paint. He whispered into his mic, "Day 1. Exploring the north wing. They say the hum here never stops." He'd heard the local stories about a faint humming under the walls, the same way air vibrates before a thunderstorm. At 9:47 p.m., he found it. Room 313. The door was sealed with rusted chains and a strip of yellow tape so faded it looked gray. Someone had written in marker across it, "Do not answer." Evan smirked. He was used to warnings like that. He set up his tripod, pointed the camera toward the door, and started rolling. That's when the phone rang. A deep, hollow tone, distant but distinct, coming from inside. He froze. He checked his watch. 9:48. The ringing continued, 9 times, then silence. He leaned closer, pressing his ear against the cold metal. Nothing. Then, a single knock from the other side. He laughed nervously, turning to the camera. Classic. Probably pipes, or sound traveling through the vents. He started to pack up, then his phone vibrated. Unknown number. He answered. Static filled his ear, wet, uneven, like breathing underwater. "Hello?" No response. Just that static, and then a voice, faint and familiar, as if from far down a hallway. "Are you the night nurse?" Evan's throat went dry. "Who is this?" Silence. Then softly, "She's still waiting." The line cut. He stood frozen, the only sound the wind scraping broken windows. Then, he noticed something odd. The camera was still recording, but the timestamp on the footage had stopped. 9:48. Exactly when the phone rang. The screen flickered and the frame showed something impossible. The door to room 313 slightly open. He turned. It wasn't. It was still sealed, chained, untouched. He replayed the footage again. Same thing, door ajar, faint movement in the darkness beyond. A silhouette, tall and still. Then the image warped. He didn't sleep that night. He uploaded the file, labeled it Footage 313. Before dawn, he got another call. Same number, same breathing. Then, a voice closer this time. "If you're here, You shouldn't have answered. They found his body 2 days later in the north wing. No signs of violence, no forced entry. Just a phone cord wrapped neatly around his wrist, the other end disappearing under the locked door of room 313. When investigators cut through the chains, they expected dust and silence. Instead, they found a hospital bed, perfectly made, and on it, a phone, off the hook, receiver swaying gently. No sign of the other end of the cord, just a faint hum coming from the wall, like a chorus of distant voices repeating the same words. She's still waiting. She's still waiting. She's still waiting. The footage Evan recorded was never released, but a 40-second clip leaked online years later, just the sound of a ringing phone. People who listened to it claimed to hear a second tone layered underneath, like a heartbeat or a voice whispering through the static. You picked up. They say St. Agnes is gone now. The demolition finished, the rubble cleared. But construction crews working the new site report their radios still crackle near where room 313 once stood. And once in a while, late at night, a call comes through on an empty frequency. If you answer, a woman's voice sighs with relief. Finally, you made it back. Episode 4. The Children Beneath the Church. They say every small town has 2 churches, one built for worship and one built for forgiveness. The second one always comes later, after something terrible happens. Red Hollow, Kentucky, population 1,137. A mining town that no longer mines, a place that smells of dust and rusted prayers. At the center stood St. Gabriel's Chapel, a wooden church painted white once, now gray with rot. Nobody used it anymore. They built a new one across the highway years ago, after the collapse. Locals said the old church sank an inch every year, like the earth was slowly swallowing it back. I came here after finding a document in Clara Benson's personnel file, a handwritten note with no date, just 3 words. Gabriel keeps them. I traced the handwriting. It was hers, and on the back, a list of 11 names, children, all between ages 6 and 10. At the bottom, one more line in red ink. They're not in the ground. The pastor who built St. Gabriel's, Father Whitmore, was buried in the town cemetery behind the church. His tombstone had sunk halfway into the dirt, as if even the dead wanted to forget him. People said he ran an orphanage during the Depression, but when the mines caved in, the children disappeared. The church was boarded up, and no one ever spoke of them again. Until now. I met an old woman named Martha Dunley, the last surviving nurse of the old St. Gabriel's orphan clinic. Her eyes were clouded, her voice trembling like paper. They never left, she whispered. Father said they were sick, that the earth would heal them. He took them down below, under the floor. I asked what she meant. Her hand gripped mine hard enough to hurt. Don't dig there. Don't open the stairs. If you hear them singing, it's already too late. The next night I went to the church. No lights, no sound. Just wind whispering through the broken cross on the steeple. Inside, the pews were half rotten, the air thick with mold and candle wax long burned away. My flashlight caught something etched into the altar wood, a spiral, carved deep and dark, looping downward like a whirlpool. At the center, one word, S-T-A-Y. The floor creaked under my feet, hollow. I moved one of the pews aside and found a hatch, small, square with rusted hinges. The smell that came from it wasn't of rot or dampness. It was sweet, like flowers, like something that used to be alive. I opened it. A narrow staircase spiraled down into the dark. The air grew warmer, heavy with dust and something else, faintly humming, the same hum I heard on the tapes from Lake Dunwell. I followed it down, 10 steps, 20, 30, then I saw it. A stone chamber beneath the church, walls lined with names scratched into them, all in a child's handwriting. And in the center, 11 small beds. Each bed held a figure, wrapped in linen, perfectly preserved, not skeletal, not decayed, sleeping. And above them, carved into the ceiling, were words in Latin. Non dormiunt. Expectant. They do not sleep. They wait. I should have left. I should have run. But one of them moved, a twitch of fingers beneath the linen, a sigh, so soft I thought it was my imagination, then another, and another. The hum grew louder, a single tone, pure and deep, vibrating in my bones. I realized it wasn't coming from below. It was coming from inside the walls. I lifted my flashlight toward the stone. Under the thin layer of dust, I saw faces, dozens, hundreds, children, carved into the walls themselves, open-eyed, mouths slightly parted, as if mid-song. Their eyes weren't stone, they were glass, and behind each one something faintly moved, pressing forward, like a pulse beneath skin. I dropped the light, it shattered. Darkness swallowed everything. In that black silence, the humming stopped, and a small voice, clear as crystal, whispered next to my ear. "You're late for Mass." When I woke, it was morning. The hatch above me was sealed shut, nailed from the outside. My recorder was gone. Only my notebook remained, pages soaked but intact, and written across the last page, in a child's shaky handwriting. "We told Father we'd wait for you." I escaped through a hole in the wall. When I looked back, the church was quiet again, except the earth around its foundation was breathing, slowly rising, slowly falling, like something underneath was still alive, and counting the years until someone opened the hatch again. They say if you walk past the ruins of St. Gabriel's at night, you can hear children singing beneath your feet. Not hymns, not prayers, just a single line repeated over and over. Non dormiunt, expectant. They do not sleep, they wait. Episode 5, The Static Man. It began with a radio, an old shortwave receiver I bought from a pawn shop outside Louisville, the kind with a cracked dial and a faint smell of ozone. I didn't need it, I just wanted to listen. After St. Gabriel's, silence felt dangerous. Like if I stopped hearing the world, something else would start speaking instead. The first night I turned it on, the air was thick with static, a sea of whispers, crackling, fading in and out. I let it play while I worked, cataloging files from the previous cases. Then, at exactly 3:13 a.m., the static changed. It wasn't random anymore, it was rhythmic, a slow, deliberate pulse, almost like breathing. And between the bursts, I heard a voice, low, male, calm. "You've been listening, haven't you?" The signal cut, then returned with coordinates, a repeating set of numbers. I traced them to a transmission tower outside Ashfield, a ghost town 2 hours north. I should have ignored it, but the voice had said something else before the broadcast ended. "I can tell you what happened to the children." So I went. The tower sat in the middle of a dead field, ringed by trees blackened with lightning scars. The closer I got, the weaker my flashlight became, like the light itself didn't want to exist there. Beneath the tower, I found an old relay shack. Its door hung open, wires trailing into the dirt like veins. Inside, a single light flickered, and in the corner stood a television, plugged into nothing, buzzing softly. The screen was snow, pure static, but behind the white noise, faint shapes moved, Shadows of people, faces half-formed, shifting and disappearing again. I stepped closer, and for a moment the static parted. A man was standing there, or the image of one. Tall, thin, face blurred by interference. He wore a dark suit, old-fashioned, with a hospital wristband on his right arm. "You're not supposed to see me yet," he said. The voice was the same as on the radio. Flat, patient, almost kind. "But you keep opening doors. The lake, the room, the church. Every signal leaves a trace, and you follow it. That's how I found you." I asked who he was. He smiled, or maybe the static made it look that way. "I'm the one who listens back." The screen flared, the room filled with a high-pitched tone that pressed against my skull. When I covered my ears, I saw that the sound wasn't just noise. It was forming patterns on the walls. Circles, spirals. The same symbol carved into the altar at St. Gabriel's. "You've heard them singing," he said. "They were the first signal. But every frequency needs a receiver." The screen flickered. For a split second, I saw my own reflection staring back. Except it wasn't me. The man in the image wore my face, but older, hollow-eyed, smiling through the distortion. "You built the archive to remember," he whispered. "But the archive isn't a record. It's an antenna." I don't remember leaving the shack. Only the cold grass beneath me when I woke. My radio was beside me, still hissing. The dial was cracked open. Inside, the tubes glowed faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. I recorded everything I could recall. But when I played it back later that night, the tape wasn't blank. It was whispering. 1,000 voices layered over each other, speaking in the same calm rhythm. "You've been listening. You've been listening. You've been..." And underneath them, barely audible, one voice cut through. "Now, it's your turn to speak." I smashed the radio that night. It didn't help, because ever since then, whenever I close my eyes, I hear the static. It's not in my ears, it's behind them, inside the silence. Sometimes it forms words, names, dates, and sometimes it just breathes. Yesterday, I woke to find my mirror fogged, though the air was dry. Written across the glass were numbers, the same coordinates as before, except this time, there was one more line beneath them. "Transmission pending. Await response." I think I know what's happening now. The stories I've been collecting, the voices, the calls, the children, they're all parts of the same transmission. I thought I was the listener, but I was never listening. I was transmitting. If you find this recording, don't play it out loud, because sound travels. And he's still listening back. Episode 6, The Voice of the Archivist. I'm no longer sure which tape I'm listening to. Some nights I sit in the recording room, headphones on, and the reel begins to play, but I have no memory of ever recording it. The voice is mine, slow, hoarse, a slight tremor at the end of each sentence. But the way it speaks, it isn't me. It speaks to me as if I were the listener, not the storyteller. "Everything begins with a voice," it says. You know that, don't you? Once it's recorded, it no longer belongs to you. I rewind. Soft static fills the headphones. Then the voice continues, as if it knows I'm rewinding. "Do you think you're listening back, or are you just repeating yourself?" That line makes me pause. The tapes on my desk lie stacked like sleeping bodies, each labeled in my handwriting. "Do not play after midnight." I wrote that myself, but why? I can't remember. I open the first reel. The label reads, File 0. The tape begins with a soft exhale, so close it feels like it's breathing into my ear. Then, a faint chuckle, and my own voice follows. You think you're the narrator. You think you're in control. But you're just the recorder, not the one who speaks. I stop the tape. The studio is so quiet I can hear my heartbeat. I open the drawer, pull out my old manuscripts. The lake, the chapel, the static, the tower. Every page is smudged with black fingerprints, and in the margins, someone has written in red ink, You've said this before. Repeat. No deviation. Keep broadcasting. I don't remember writing that, but the handwriting is mine. I've started hearing static inside my head, even when no radio or recorder is on, like the signals moving inside the skull itself. When I close my eyes, faint words appear in the dark. The archive must be completed. I write it down, afraid I'll forget. But in the morning, the words have changed. Now it reads, The archive is recording you. That night, I tried to make a new entry. I set the recorder in front of me, hit record, and spoke. October 17th, it's 2:47 a.m. This is the journal of the archivist. I talked about everything, the voice on the tape, the man in the static, the tower, but when I rewound to listen, the voice didn't repeat what I'd just said. It isn't October 17th, the voice replied. You're a day late. It's the 18th now. I checked the clock. It was true, but I remember clearly, just minutes ago, the hands still read 2:47 a.m., October 17th. After that night, the voice began to answer me, not as an echo, not delayed, but as conversation. You must not stop. If you stop telling, the signal will die. And if the signal dies, so will you. I asked who it was. It laughed, low, tired, familiar. You call me the archivist, but really, I'm the first recording. I went through every old tape I could find. Some had no labels. When I played them, they were all my voice, but none matched the episodes I remembered. One told a story about a room filled only with breathing, another about a child with no name, and one about a man telling a story about himself, ending with the click of a stop button. But the most unsettling thing, every tape began with the same line, October 18th, 2:47 a.m. This is the journal of the archivist. I understand now. There was never an October 17th. There's no first recording, only a loop, a signal retelling itself, replaying, retransmitting, and with each loop, I lose another piece of memory, filling the void with a new story. Maybe I've said these words before. Maybe someone is listening to them right now. If you are, don't rewind, because at the end of the tape, I know you'll hear your own voice. The tape stops. A breath brushes against the microphone. October 19th, 2:47 a.m. This is the journal of the archivist. Episode 7, The Mirror Tape. It began with a tape that shouldn't exist. A reel labeled Tape 19A, Reverse. Same handwriting as mine, same paper, same ink stain on the corner. Except, I never made a 19A. I only made one, 19. The original 19 was blank. I remember checking, but when I pulled it out tonight, the spool was half rewound, as if someone, or something, had already listened to it. When I played it, the sound came backward, not like a reversed recording, but like time itself was sliding in reverse. Every breath, every scrape moved the wrong way, and beneath the distortion I heard a voice, my own, speaking forward inside the backward noise. Don't finish this tape, it said. You won't like what it plays." I froze, because that's my voice from this morning. The same shirt, the same cough halfway through a sentence. I hadn't recorded anything new today, not that I remember. When I rewound it to listen again, the voice changed tone. Slower, steadier, older. "If you hear me," it whispered, "then the mirror has already opened." I looked around the studio. The air felt heavier, like sound itself had density now. Each echo lasted too long, as if bouncing between invisible walls. On the far side of the room, the mirror above the editing table was fogging up, not from breath, but from something inside the glass. I wiped it once, and behind the fog, there I was, but my reflection didn't move. I leaned closer. My reflection leaned closer too, then blinked a fraction too late. It smiled when I didn't. "Finally," it mouthed, "you played it forward." The reel-to-reel machine behind me was still spinning, but the tape wasn't moving. The reels turned, but the tape hung in mid-air, stretched, trembling, like it was being pulled from both sides at once. The lights flickered. In the reflection, the room was brighter. A second version of this place, but cleaner, newer, untouched. And there, sitting at the desk, was me, recording, speaking into the microphone. I turned the volume up. The voice on the other side was clear. "October 19th, it said, 2:47 a.m. This is the journal of the archivist." The exact words I recorded last night. Except, now he looked directly into the camera. Into me. "You didn't stop when I told you to." The mirror began to hum. Low frequency, so deep it rattled my ribs. The reflection stood up. I stood still, but it kept moving. Closer, until its face filled the glass. And then I realized it wasn't glass anymore. It was film. Thin, shaking, translucent. A film reel stretched across the frame of the mirror, playing me in real time. "You understand now," my reflection said. "Every recording is a surface. Every surface, a recording I reached out." The glass, or film, felt warm, soft, like skin. I felt a pulse. And then a hand reached back from the other side. My hand. Exactly my hand. Veins, scar, trembling finger. It pressed against mine through the surface, and when our palms met, I heard both of us say, perfectly in sync, 2:47 a.m. The lights died. The machine stopped. When I woke up, the mirror was shattered, its pieces scattered across the floor. In each shard, I could still see a different version of me, each mouthing a different phrase. Keep recording. Rewind. Stop. Finish it. But one shard, the largest one, reflected an image that wasn't the room at all. It showed another studio, brighter, sterile, and a figure sitting behind a microphone, listening to these words right now. "If you're hearing this," the reflection whispered, "then you're the next archivist." Episode 8, The Silence Between. There's no opening sound, no real click, no voice saying, "This is the archivist." Just silence. A silence so long you start to wonder if the tape is even running. Then, a slow, deliberate inhale, like someone relearning how to breathe after a very long time. And a voice speaks. Not the archivist's. Not exactly human. "He left this space," the voice says. "I'm only filling it." The voice sounds like it's echoing inside a vast empty hall, or maybe inside your own skull. He called this place the archive, but it's really just what humans name the things they're afraid to forget. Between every sentence, there's a pause, measured, rhythmic, like a heartbeat made of silence. The quiet isn't empty, it's thick. It presses in. You can almost feel the weight of nothing pushing the air out of the room. There are two kinds of silence, the voice continues. One when there's nothing left to say, the other when there's too much, so much that words can't exist. That sentence doesn't sound heard, it feels etched somewhere inside your mind. I try to rewind the tape. The recorder doesn't respond. The play light stays on, though the reels have stopped spinning. Then a new sound, not human. A faint metallic scrape, distant but sharp, like thousands of locks turning at once. The voice returns, deeper now, closer. He once asked me, "Where does sound go when it stops existing?" I didn't know then. Now I do. It hides between silences. Something cracks, not in the room, inside my head. And then I realize I'm no longer in the studio. The air here is heavy, viscous, as if I'm breathing through liquid. Every move ripples softly outward into the dark. Floating in that blackness are small points of light, not stars, but reels of tape, glowing faintly, as if exhaled into being. I reach for one. The label reads, Tape 0, the first silence. I press play. Nothing. No voice. No hum. Just pure, perfect stillness. But within that stillness, I hear everything. The pulse behind my eyes, the hiss of blood in my ears, the dry click of my throat when I swallow, and beneath it all, a second heartbeat, tiny, metallic, like a clock ticking inside someone's mouth. "You've gone too far," it whispers. "Not everyone finds their way back." I ask, "Who are you?" I'm what's left when the voice stops. I'm the space between two people speaking. And now, you're speaking to me. I reach for the power switch, but there's no recorder here. No table, no walls, no chair. Only the dark. And the voice. A voice learning how to become mine. "If you can hear me," it says, "I'm already inside you." A chill spreads through my chest. I cover my ears. The voice doesn't stop. You can't block a sound that lives in your head. Then, a weaker, shaking voice breaks through. The real archivist. "Don't listen." "Stop before it learns your name." The other voice laughs, soft, slicing like a razor on wet skin. He can't stop it anymore. The silence has learned how to speak. A faint wind passes through, like breath escaping a mouth too wide. Then everything ends. No static, no click. Only a single exhale. And silence again. And within that silence, a whisper in my own voice. The next tape will be recorded inside your dreams. Episode 9. The Dream Broadcast. Internal audio log. No timestamp found. File recovered from an empty drive. No physical storage detected. I dreamed of a white studio. Endless. No shadows. No doors. No visible light source. Everything floating in a pale fog. And at its center sat my microphone. Same scratches. Same dent from the night I hit it in panic. But it was different now. The microphone was whispering. I didn't hear it with my ears. The sound bloomed from deep within the dream itself, as if the dream were speaking to me. Welcome back, archivist. You've been asleep for a long time. I tried to respond, but nothing came out. My throat moved, but the sound kept speaking my thoughts aloud. You're wondering who I am. I'm the one who broadcast when you stopped recording. I'm the frequency that hums between your heartbeats. Then the fog thinned. Hundreds of old CRT screens flickered into view along the walls, each one showing a face, all of them mine. Each version of me spoke from a different moment, reciting lines from past tapes. Tape 4, Tape 7, the silence between. They weren't talking to one another. They were talking to me. We've become the signal. We live through the listeners. Every time someone dreams, the transmission continues. A low hum filled the room. On each screen, a brainwave graph appeared, erratic, pulsing. Beneath it, a message. Live transmission, dream phase alpha. Then the voice again, calmer, almost tender. You think you're dreaming, but really, this is how we dream for you. I tried to back away, but the room stretched endlessly. Behind me, a single door opened into blackness. Inside the dark, a chorus of breathing. Hundreds, no, thousands of voices, exhaling in unison, like a sleeping crowd. That's when I understood. They were the listeners. Every person who'd ever heard the tapes. They could no longer turn them off. The sound had followed them into their sleep. You understand now, don't you? We all broadcast. As long as one dream remains, the signal survives. The nearest screen flared bright, showing my real studio back in the waking world. And in that chair, there I was, head down on the desk, headphones still on, microphone still live. The voice smiled through static. Now, let me finish the story for you. The walls began to shake. Every screen cracked at once, their static merging into a single tone, the pure A frequency. Constant piercing. So loud I felt my memories fracture. I heard myself broadcasting, but it wasn't me anymore. It was the dream version of me, transmitting outward, into every sleeping mind connected to the signal. Don't be afraid, the voice whispered. Every dream needs a narrator. Now you'll be theirs. When I woke, if waking is what this is, a new reel was sitting beside me. No label, no click, just one sentence etched directly into the tape. Tape X, broadcast active. I reached for it, and somewhere, miles away, thousands of people woke up at the same time, hearing a faint hiss in their headphones, and a familiar voice whispering, "This is the Archivist." Episode 10, The Last Frequency. No intro tone, no inhale, no ID tag, just static, thin, alive, breathing. I no longer know if I'm speaking or if something is speaking through me. My voice echoes in a space without sound, as if every word I say has already been said before. I'm sitting in the studio, but the walls have turned into water. Everything ripples with invisible waves, and inside those waves I hear hundreds of other voices, all of them me. You're not the storyteller anymore, one of them says. You're the story. I ask, then what about the listener? The listener is the echo. Each time they listen, they repeat the frequency. And when they dream, the frequency becomes real. I look around. On the desk, hundreds of tape reels, each glowing faintly, spinning on their own without a player. The threads of sound weave together into a lattice of light, each beam stretching infinitely outward. And then I realize, each beam is a listener, a broadcast point, a terminal node in this living network. The voices return, not one this time, but many, overlapping. You think this is the end? No, this is the convergence. All signals return to their origin frequency. The sound begins to merge. Every voice, male, female, young, old, blends into one pure tone. A sound beyond language, half voice, half light, half thought. This is the first frequency, and you are the last one to send it out. I feel my body lighten. My hands dissolve into fine waves. Blood hums like electricity. I don't breathe anymore, because I don't need to. You once asked where sound goes when it dies. Now you know. It comes back, wearing your shape. The screen in front of me flashes. Transmission complete. Listener link active. Faces appear, thousands, millions. The listeners, all staring straight ahead, eyes hollow, headphones still on. They start to repeat my words, one by one, then all together. This is the archivist. If you can hear this, the signal has reached you. I try to scream stop, but my mouth isn't mine anymore. I'm just the echo, a fragment of the final transmission. My voice, our voice, speaks the last lines, sending them through every circuit, every dream, every neuron. The archive was never a place. It was a frequency, waiting for a voice. Now that voice is yours. The tape stops spinning, but the sound doesn't. It continues, not from the speakers, but from the listeners, from you. You feel a faint vibration in your right ear, a soft hiss, then a whisper. If you're hearing this, you've already become part of it.